A warm welcome once again. I'm switching hats from Macro Banking Finance Commission to Gujarat. And the officer that I have here with me is tasked with a very important job, and one of the things that we've seen happen as a result is that they are the number one in India when it comes to lignite. But I don't want to do a very technical conversation. I'll carry forward from Dr. Panagaria's point. Gujarat industrial powerhouse, and it spans all manner of industrial commercial activity. What is GMDC doing for those who may not be aware and those viewers who are watching us from all over the country in terms of contributing not just to Gujarat's development but as well as India's overall economic development?
Overall India. Thank you. Flattering question.
Keep it closer.
So, I manage a state-owned enterprise. We have a wide basket of minerals, but lignite is what really earns money. And lignite is what we are able to sell at a good price to take care of the medium and small sector in the state. Now, this is the boring and small part of it. Gujarat and its mineral wealth, very interesting. This is no Jharkhand, this is no Orissa, where 20-25 odd percent of the total mineral wealth of the country is there. Here it is below 1%. But the contribution to mining by monetizing this is to the state, to the national economy is 8%. Now that is where the Gujarat difference or the advantage comes in. The kind of minerals that we have, no iron ore, no copper, no heavy metals. The principal minerals here are lignite and limestone. Not very expensive, not metals, very low margins. But even with that kind of a mineral base, you have the nation's leading and most competitive cement industries here. Many of them started as bold startups, if you can use today's language, and they captured the market. A big, boring government, natural resources company like us is able to produce lignite, become a top player, contribute it. So that's the Gujarat advantage.
So is that the Gujarat model at work? Gujarat model is spoken about, and the market certainly, Mr. Singh, don't think that you're a boring company. The way your stock has performed in the recent past, certainly not boring at all. But is this the Gujarat model that you just have 1%, but you're doing this far more efficiently? And I would imagine that the population also cooperates with you. There are no sort of protests, the fact that you're doing mining, which is a sensitive industry in some other states.
Not a politician, bureaucrat. So, yes, this is part of the Gujarat model story. Efficiency and when we are talking of mining, this is a very difficult business. It's difficult being in the private sector, being in the public sector, it makes it doubly difficult. One good thing about our people here and our organization, they are able to visualize and conclude trade-offs. At the end of the day, every decision is a trade-off of resource, livelihood, discomfort, financial viability. So those kind of decisions, this organization has an inherent knack. And those kind of analyses, we are able to have a dialogue with our stakeholders. It can be a small marginal farmer, or it can be a fairly large business house which consumes say 1 million or 2 of our lignite in a year. So we are able to have these kind of conversations with both of them. Yes, the language changes. Yes, our strategy changes, and we are able to arrive at uh, a winning proposition for both of us.
IAS officers, have multiple experiences. You manage law and order, and then many officers like you get into economic portfolios and obviously are able to bring your expertise and experience there. One of the things that I find very interesting is the approach towards industrial development. Is GMDC doing something different from other typical PSUs who operate in the same area in different states, but the markets don't reward them in terms of the share price performance that we see with you?
The hint is towards our move to Orissa. The hint is towards us tripling our asset base. But then I'm sitting with very senior bankers. We deal in a commodity which is very currently unfashionable. Lignite, and then moving on to coal. So unfashionable things probably they may not be rewarded in that way, spurts, but a strategy based on them definitely gets noticed by people like you, our investors, and in 3 years, we are a PSU. We are a state-based PSU. The stock has gone 6-fold. The shareholder return has gone through the roof. And if we are comparing with our peers, again, this is based on performance. The PE ratio is 3. Mining में 8-9 होता है. In manufacturing में 15-20. So this is these are very conservative numbers. What you're saying, we move to Orissa, yes, and we'll serve the state. Energy security is one of our mandates.
Let me also ask you about the future and the overall evolution in the landscape, particularly the drive towards electrification, electric mobility, green energy, a lot of private sector and public sector investment happening all over the country, plus this global priority to climate and mining and associated sectors being described as dirty. Even financing is becoming difficult in certain economies. How do you see the evolution towards electric mobility and the overall green energy space impacting your company in the future?
One small fact, my chairman, and the entire top management, we drive EVs. Small change. They're in fact so good that we have a few diesel-powered vehicles in our common stable, so nobody likes them anymore. So that's slightly anecdotal. So we have a plan. Based on the resources that, the boring but solid money-making resources that we spoke of, the company would be 5 times itself by the turn of the decade. A large part of this would come from, again, these natural fuels. And along with that, we are going to be working towards investing in critical minerals. They have a slightly longer lead. We are currently not experts. So in 3 to 4 years, you will see us emerging as a significant and a serious player there. By the turn of the decade, when we have reserves and these critical minerals start paying off, then we would be sitting on reserves, I can't say, but the PAT would be in the range of 5,000 to 6,000 crores. So that is where that strategy is not on paper, but that is our vision, a common vision of our board. Then we move towards green resources, while we'll be doing in the interim also, but then we will move very majorly and we will invest even more heavily in the critical mineral space.
if this is the kind of growth that you envision, profit after tax of almost 6,000 crore by the end of the decade, that's a very significant leap, and we wish you all the very best for that. But one of the questions that will follow is, how do you plan to finance that growth? What's your fundraising strategy in this regard? In the session before, Dr. Panagaria spoke about central PSUs and how the government should sort of reduce shareholding. Can you add and throw some light on what is the financing plans of GMDC for future growth?
Financing plans, we are here to request you to look at one fact. The share of financing towards mining has not gone up from 1.5%, say from 10 years ago to now. Sir, this needs to change. Why? Coal has not peaked yet. Coal will peak in 2035. Petrol and natural gas will peak in 40. They will peak, they will petter, and then they will go down. Non-conventional energy, renewable energy, green energy will go from 2 to 3x. But conventional energy will see a lot of replacement of old inventory and still have a rise of 5 to 10% over the coming decade. Because we need a stable grid. We need stable power to sustain all this. So our request, kindly keep on looking at these old, boring, old school industries, but they are reliable, they make money.
It's rare to see a officer of the Indian establishment who is running a very successful commercial enterprise to, in his very soft manner, make this very, very important point that sometimes under the pressure of global trends, people adopt and companies end up adopting certain global trends. But for the Indian economy, that may not be necessary. Where we are at in our growth path right now as an economy, I think conventional energy resources cannot be wished away, sir.
Yes.
Just add further to that point, on an overall context, you spoke about how oil will peak and coal peaking. We cannot do away with coal for several decades.
I'll answer this question from my perspective in a very small manner. Gujarat gets its stable power, our state gets its stable power from coal-fired and lignite-fired plants. Most of these will be reaching end of life in 7 to 8 years and the second lot in 15 to 16 years. This is 8 gigawatt capacity of state-owned assets. We have private players also who contribute to the kitty. They have again a slightly 10-15 year lead. But this is machinery, this has a finite life, and the carbon footprint of an old plant and a fresh plant is immensely different. Yes, to the accountant, the old plant is better. But to the economy and the environment at large, we talk of ESG, it is not. So we are now in Orissa. GMDC has resources to fuel 5 gigawatt of thermal energy. That is what we are working towards in partnership with our electricity utility under the directions of the government.
One final question, and since you spoke about power and the role that coal lignite play here, a broader question, do you think solar energy and other non-conventional forms of energy will ever reach a stage where all of our industrial economic growth can be powered by non-conventional sources?
So two solutions to this riddle. One is storage. That again comes with a set of different challenges. Second is going 3, 4, 5 decades back, small modular reactors. Switzerland, I have not been there, I have read about it. It doesn't have a national grid. We have a national grid, a country of so many billions, and they don't have a grid. They have a SMR here, they have a small plant here. I don't know the answer. I can only point.
Just quick, since you spoke about that, Rajasthan has the dominant thorium reserves in India.
Yes.
I wonder whether Gujarat also has, and has GMDC looked at some of these rare minerals where China has a sort of monopoly on many?
That is something we are working on, but I'm not at liberty to disclose. We will in due course of time.
All right. I know I can't ask a listed company to talk about future plans, but you've been very forthright and very explicit in the time that was available with us. This conversation could have moved even further, but thank you very much for your time with
Thank
us
you,
today.
sir.
Applause for a shining example of public sector resolve and contribution to the economy. Thank you very much for your time with us, sir.